This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
There we go. All right. We will begin. This begins our April 26, 2023 Southampton Housing Authority meeting. Welcome, everyone. Looks like we have a full agenda and a full complement of members, so we will begin by calling the meeting to order. And we have open time for the public. We do have guests today, but they are on the agenda, so we won't consider our guests open time for the public. I hope they're not offended.
Not the least.
No. I do not see any other citizens of this great town present for open time for the public, so we'll proceed on to the next, which is to review and approve the previous minutes. Everyone have a chance to...
So I did add to Zero College Highway, put the parcel numbers, the
Okay.
19-141 and parcel 24-15. But it is Zero College Highway because it doesn't have a number yet.
Oh, okay. I just guessed looking at Google what the number might
Yeah,
be.
trust me, I've been dealing with this property for a year now, so
You know better.
I know it.
Okay, so we have a parcel number that will be...
I have two parcel numbers because there's two segments.
And I believe our two guests will be speaking on that parcel number, so it's good to know that and have that in minutes and recorded as such.
And the other question, I replaced an even lower as required by Southampton's inclusionary bylaw, and two different places, I think I added that.
Mm-hmm.
4 of them, I just sent out new minutes a couple hours ago.
Oh, I didn't get them. Oopsie.
Are you not on the Southampton housing thingy?
Be. They should be.
I don't know if I saw them either.
Yeah, I don't.
You sure you hit send on that?
I did.
It's not in my inbox.
Southampton housing.
I have to say, I didn't see it either.
I don't know,
I
Janet.
just checked before I came. but-
Southampton housing revised minutes, and Dan LaValle I added as well.
Yeah.
SouthamptonMAhousing@gmail.com.
What time did you send them?
Well, I see them.
350.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Maybe I
Can I
can
tell you?
forward them.
They were sent.
That's bizarre.
I have the email from you.
Yes, I see abatement.
Yeah,
Right, I just sent that.
but I don't have the minutes.
I can forward them individually.
I was just doing that right now.
Oh, you are?
Okay, thanks.
I did.
Did you get to everybody?
Unless it went to my personal email.
Whatever's under Southampton Housing is our email address, right?
It could be.
I don't know.
Or is
It's
it-
gone to my
maybe it's a-
personal, I
maybe-
haven't, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's a different email address than Southampton Housing.
Or maybe it's
Wait, Southampton House. So you just sent it to one email address?
like a group.
It's a group email.
Oh, group. Okay.
So it
But
could be
maybe it's
my,
not the correct,
well, or perhaps to your point, that, like, for example, my personal email is what's listed in that group email rather than Gmail,
okay.
I did.
which wouldn't be anyone's fault.
I did just get Dan's email.
Okay.
Yeah, and I sent it to your town of Southampton email as well, because I didn't know which one you.
So that's what I suspect is happening. The
Okay,
group email
yep.
is the older personal emails.
Yeah,
Well, I only have a personal email and,
Yeah, I don't know why it was
Oh.
going through.
Okay, I just got it from you. Okay.
Too, so, but Jim, I don't think I sent it to you. I'll send it to you again.
oh, see, you sent it to southamptonmahousing@gmail.com, which is
So that's
an
a
email address.
different-
Yeah, that's not
Yeah, I don't know
any
who
of
that
us.
is.
That's just what
Okay.
we used for response to that survey. about
Okay,
that.
okay. So
Okay,
that's what,
okay.
that's what happened.
If you want, if I were to join the board, I can connect that up for you guys.
No, it should be connected already. I just snagged it
Yeah.
on one. It's already connected.
Okay,
I just sent it to
So-
you as well, so.
thank you. So given the changes that have been made, we'll start again. Did folks have an opportunity to read those minutes? Understanding that...
Did you see them before? Because I mean, I sent them out a couple weeks ago.
Yes, I did.
Okay. I know you did, Jim. Because you researched.
Okay, so I would like to move to approve the minutes.
Oh, this is my correction. I remember. I did read these. I wasn't here for this meeting.
Right.
Okay.
And it says I was.
Oh,
Oh,
so
okay.
that's a correction.
Yes.
I was like, why are you correcting them if you weren't there?
Yeah.
What a troublemaker.
Right,
Yeah.
so that's an amendment.
All right.
In
Yeah,
addition to the ones
I watched
named.
it and then I read the minutes. I was like, wait, I wasn't there.
So a motion's been placed to approve, and that motion improves
The
an
minutes from
understanding that
March
there's the amendments
22nd.
that Janet just added, plus the change in the attendee.
Correct.
Do I have a second?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I will say I, because I did watch the meeting while I was there.
Okay.
Sorry.
Opposed?
Sorry.
It's okay.
There are none. It's unanimous. Very good. Thank you. Next on our agenda, I just wanted to spend a minute to thank Sierra for volunteering to be our Housing Authority webmaster.
Oh, of course. Anytime.
For the training?
I was not told about the training.
Yeah.
Oops, hard to attend when you're not told.
Yes. He probably emailed it to the Southampton Housing Authority email, which does not go to me. So
Okay, I'll make sure
Why
you-
does that not go to you?
I don't know if it goes to anyone.
Wouldn't
It does. We usually get- I usually get
I'm supposed to do
messages.
it too for open space.
Like last Thursday, the Thursday before.
Okay, so you didn't hear about it either? Okay.
Dan
I
Breen
have
is
so many.
is the instructor.
I understand.
Anna Breen's husband, Dan Breen.
He's doing it? Okay.
And Megan, I
Okay,
think, as
good
well, right?
training.
Along with Megan Gentile.
Gentile, yeah.
So on the chance, the likelihood that not everyone could attend that training is a second training being offered.
No, this would be the third one, so I'm sure
Oh.
they're gonna have a third one,
Okay.
because I know people.
If I
other
could
people-
be
I don't think a lot
informed,
of people
that's
have
great.
been attending, so
Yeah.
you're not in the minority.
Okay. I'm also like so bomb at websites that I probably am only gonna need like 30 seconds of training.
Right?
It's like it helps you design it, but
That
you
sounds
don't
like a
have to
challenge.
put Words or anything.
There
Yeah, it's
probably
like-
already has a template and you fill it in.
Yeah, these things are all the
Pretty
same.
easy.
Squarespace, WordPress.
Yeah.
I'm just joking about my images to have a little.
But they do template it nice, so it's
We are
pretty
being
even.
recorded,
Even an
just so you
adult
know.
like me could
I
probably do it.
mean, I designed my
Gotta entertain the
MySpace
people,
back in the
right?
day.
Hmm?
I designed my MySpace back in the day. I think I have some ones.
Nice.
Resume?
So what you're telling us, Sierra, is the bar is not that hard, but nonetheless, we are grateful for your willingness to do this.
Of course.
Thank you.
Happy to.
Thank you. And no questions on your part, or not hearing any reservations? Thank you.
No.
Good. Well, then we should move right along in our next agenda item, which is the Parsons Village follow-up questions, Q&A, and presentation. And that I am going to defer to our guests, Mr. Barron and Hannon, to bring us up to speed and what you have and the questions. I did share the questions that you had, which I have to admit, they're good questions that I can't speak for everyone here, but I don't necessarily have the answers to. So this should be a very interesting discussion, but maybe, I'm hoping it's productive and fruitful, but I can't promise that.
And I also think that some of those are planning board questions and maybe ZBA questions as well, so
Right.
we can kind of go through them and see which.
I would only add that in presenting what's called the LIP, the Local Initiative Plan, the state talks about identifying one of the agencies, one of the boards within the town as the authority that would present that. So that was one of the additional questions we had. We don't know where to go, with an affordable housing plan, never mind the answers to these specific questions. I anticipated that there might be some a learning process that would be for all of us. So I put some questions
It's a
together.
very diplomatic way to put it. Thank you.
Yes. So in other words, and these are not definitive answers. These are what we have learned so far as we've done our research over the past 2.5 years. The main problem we have, and I can't speak for Bob here, but it's very difficult to find a resource that gives clear answers to these questions. And ultimately, although we have to know the answers, the town has to know the answers. Otherwise, these houses are not going to get on the
Inventory?
inventory. That's right. The inventory being
The
the
percentages.
subsidized housing inventory.
Right, right. And that's what the chapter, what, 40B or whatever it's all about, is
Yes.
recording these.
So this says that the DHCD provides technical support for both the town and a developer, so we can reach
Sweet.
out to the DHCD. Have you spoken to them then?
I have, I spoke
Okay.
with them last year. The one, I would caution you that the type of presentation to them affects the answer you're going to get. So in other words, if we were to go in and present to the Department of Housing and Community Development an affordable housing plan that required their approval, that would be a different, which is one of the options. That requires a different level of approval and a different set of answers, as opposed to doing the local initiative plan, which it gives the town great latitude as to what's built and the process. The town gets the authority to approve, although one of the questions we have is at what point and who approaches the state for approval of the local plan. It's not clear in the regulations that I've been reading. And I think that it's the town that has to do the presentation with the information the developer provides. But there's this, again,
But, yeah, but we're in the town.
yeah, that's...
And you say, again, I'm sorry, just to be clear, the presentation to whom? To DHCD?
Right, there's, the actual plan has to be submitted, so even the LIP plan, local initiative plan, has to be submitted to Department of Housing and Community Development, even if it's approved locally. So,
It still has to be reviewed and approved by them.
yeah, and so, but it doesn't say when. So,
Yeah.
in other words, here we are, not that we have a plan that you're about to approve, but let us say we did. Would we be jumping the gun by not having the state look at it first? That seems to contradict this whole process of the town having the authority to make decisions.
So it's a little chicken and the egg here, who goes what, what's.
I mean, I think we could make a phone call to their office and just try to get engaged with
I have an
somebody.
email here for someone who's the director of
Yeah,
housing
the email,
development.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would have to, I'm just thinking, I mean, in some ways, my term is expiring anyway, but I would have to, I will want to, choose my words carefully, I will want to recuse myself from any communications with DHCD because I have business with them in my job.
Okay.
And I have contacts there, and it's not appropriate for me to mix these things. So,
I don't mind calling them. Want to send me that contact email you have?
Yeah.
Unless you're like really excited to email them.
Maybe put on hold for a long time.
That's cool. I know the trick. You find another activity to do while you're on
Just
hold.
press 0 and go right to
yeah.
Some of them have outsmarted that trick.
I mean, hopefully this contact that you have, Joy, is,
It's just what I looked up on the internet. It's not a contract that I
okay.
have.
Okay.
I'm just saying,
because I mean,
it sounds like
DHCD
you
is
have
a
a
big,
lot of
hello, can you help me with this? I mean, who are we talking to, right? So I guess we gotta start somewhere.
I have
yeah.
a suggestion about how to get a hold of them. I was able to get a hold of somebody there last year by getting the name from Valley Community Development,
Okay.
because they're dealing with them all the time. And that's a great way in, and then you can say, I spoke to so-and-so at Valley Community Development, they suggest I speak with you. That's the way I did it. I can't remember the names.
Oh, we could try Paul at
Yeah,
Hilltown
that's
CDC
right.
as well.
Mhm.
Your name
He's
was
the guy
Paul?
who gave the affordable housing presentation,
Are you
right?
writing this down?
I am.
Okay.
I guess I
know.
should be taking notes too. So the top
Always
paragraph in
gets
this
recorded.
mass.gov says the local initiative program is a state program that encourages the creation of affordable housing by providing, thank you, technical assistance to communities and developers who are working together to create affordable rental opportunities.
Rental opportunities, it's not the only thing. that
Okay,
you
I'm
can
just
do them for.
saying that's like the summary paragraph, so I just want to make sure
Right, right,
we're looking at the right thing.
yeah.
Okay.
So we need clarity on that.
So, the other, I realize you haven't had a chance to really review these questions and come up with answers. I can help provide some context to our questions, so if that would help you as you do your research.
I'm in favor of that, any way to, you have all these specifics, but the logic behind the questions and, maybe summarize it in a more narrative way, which might clicking, for me anyway.
So the
So
first thing
question.
is, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, question number 2, I did tried to do a little research on the allowable total assets a buyer, so I don't know, this is just kind of, I mean, you probably already found this, an individual or family can have no more than $75,000 in assets. What's that? Oh,
That's
this,
just being, we're just passing.
if the household is applying for an age-restricted development, they can have up to $275,000 in combined assets, including both liquid assets and property equity for the sale of a home. Is that an answer to that number 2?
Say the last part of that again?
So it says, and I copied this off of, I forget which site it was,
Yeah.
but if the household is applying for age-restricted development, which I know is a possibility, 55 plus,
Yeah.
they can have up to $275,000 in combined assets, including both liquid assets and property equity from the sale of a home. I mean, I can send this to you, you know.
Yeah,
And
I saw that too.
Did you? Okay.
The question we have is that, and this ties in with the first question, which is effectively, what is the maximum sale price based on today's interest rates and projections about property taxes, homeowners insurance, and condominium fees, as well as private mortgage insurance if it applies, that these people can actually qualify for? And we did some rough calculation based on the 7% interest rate, which is about where they are now, and condo fees of roughly $300 a month, insurance of 90, taxes of roughly 275. Anyway, and the income calculation, we came out with roughly a mortgage of about 150,000, and the state allows you to have 5% down. That puts you at a purchase price of roughly 158.5. And apart from whether that is something we can even do based on how expensive it is to build, the question is, is our methodology correct? And who, I know where it's going with this. Part of the logic in this question is this is time sensitive, meaning if we take an application for affordable housing, we have to close within 60 days for the state to allow us to use the interest rate that we qualify the people at, regardless of what happens in the market. If we close after 60 days, then we have to re-qualify the people. So if rates have gone up, you could lose it. You could lose their qualification. If rates go down, you can't use the new rate. That's the bizarre thing. So
you're locked in, but only if it
Yeah.
goes up. Yeah.
And so, but these are just our impressions as we've read through these regulations and talked to a number of people. We have she was not able to attend tonight, but we do have a consultant who has helped with a recent project in Northampton, and much of the information that I got, I confirmed with her, or she clarified for us. So for instance, and then I'll stop, I don't mean to ramble about this, but
Proceed.
the asset question number 2, is a really interesting question. And the way the regulations read, to get on the subsidized housing inventory, you don't have to qualify based on assets. It's income driven only. The asset limitation has more to do, according to the consultant, with what lenders are doing and what the state is requiring for eligibility for a mortgage based on the first-time homebuyer definition. So there is some latitude, apparently, with the assets, as you cited. One says 75, and if it's age restricted, it's 275. And the definition of age restricted is 80% of the units have to be lived in by at least one person age 62 or 65 or older.
This referred 55 plus in
Really?
their definition.
For age restricted?
That's what it said, yeah.
Okay, all right, well, I read another section. It enables
can
you
get
to
very
not have to designate the entire complex as age restricted
Mm-hmm.
if you meet a certain percentage of households that have a representative who's considered elderly.
I see.
But again, this is a moving
Or an
target,
older
as we
senior.
talked about. And in order for us to proceed, we have to really know what we're getting into, because, I mean, the whole other discussion here, which isn't really part of this, is that the cost to build is very, very high. And the affordable units have to be substantially like the market rates. And the interesting thing is, I don't know if you've seen that, it's a great example of a development of
And
affordable
Village Hill,
housing units.
or no?
It's Emerson Way.
Emerson Way.
They built, I want to say 36 units and of regular housing, and then agreed to build 8 affordables. I don't know where that, Northampton may have different.
It may have a different inclusionary bylaw.
Right, exactly.
Right.
But the interesting thing is and the state establishes the requirement that the units be substantially alike. In Northampton, these are all on the inventory, state housing inventory, and they are not at all like the multi-million-dollar places that were built in the actual development.
Yeah, I wonder what substantially
They said indistinguishable, didn't they?
Yeah, I think that's our bylaw, right? Is that one of our
Yours is,
zoning
but that doesn't
bylaw?
follow, the state says substantially like. The bylaw
Okay.
says indistinguishable from.
Okay.
I don't know what that means. I mean, no two houses are exactly the same,
Yeah.
so
they're both gray areas.
So how could you make them indistinguishable? In other words, the market price units may not all look alike. certainly.
Right.
So how could you assure that an affordable unit looks like every other one if the other ones are not necessarily identical? So
Well,
there is some, we think there's some flexibility there.
I think there is too. I think it's one of those things where they want you to be acting in good faith and you're not making like 40 beautiful identical units and 2 like crappy shacks off in the corner. But
Right.
I'm happy to research that as well.
Right, I think there's probably, some kind of a reasonable clause, but my definition of reasonable and your definition of reasonable, I don't know if it comes to a dispute, who arbitrates it, right?
Right, and that's the key.
And that's
So
the
we build
planning
these
board,
things.
again, that's a zoning bylaw.
It's a zoning bylaw, but are they
It's
the
also-
arbiters of,
I think the housing
What?
authority is. I think the housing authority is the one who's
I don't
got.
know.
They're the ones that keep getting mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll look into that one.
The other part of that question is, in
It
Northampton,
might come under case law.
again, they got these on the
It's
list.
probably
In
been
Northampton, they
litigated.
allow them to build
Okay.
on an adjacent site. Literally across the public way, there was another
Emerson, right.
Emerson,
right,
and
yeah.
they built 8 units across the main street.
across Burt's Pit?
Yes,
essentially?
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
And,
Those are the ones that are just going up now, or?
Yeah.
yeah, and they're accessory dwelling units. They were built by backyard ADUs out of Vermont now. They used to be in East Hampton.
Mhm.
Tim O'Reilly's associated with them. I got an email from him today. But at any rate, it's very curious that, so there are 2 aspects of that. They're on the inventory and they don't look like the other units in the market rate units, and they're not on the same parcel.
Right.
So, and which has, legal precedence? The local inclusionary bylaw, which says, not identical, but what was the term used? Versus substantially.
Substantially alike.
Indistinguishable.
Or local one.
Indistinguishable
We
versus
have it here, I think,
Yeah.
from
The
inclusionary
local
bylaw.
rules.
the local overrules the state.
Yes, the state is a bare minimum. Anything local can go above it.
So
You
there's.
can't go below the state. You can
Can't go
only
below
above.
state.
So there's still, in my opinion, one person's opinion, there's still some gray area and indistinguishable.
Like,
So these-
like I was saying to Sierra, it's probably been litigated before, what indistinguishable means in regards to housing.
Not necessarily
So-
in Southampton, though.
Not in Southampton, but in Massachusetts.
But if
Right.
those are,
Yeah, I'm
if that's
sure.
our language, then I don't
Yeah.
know.
I know,
Right,
I'm saying like the term though.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
Well,
saying it's
yeah.
probably not exclusive to Southampton.
No, I'm
term
sure this
indistinguishable.
has come up before. Yeah, because that language that we got indistinguishable wasn't,
We
we
didn't
didn't
make-
come up with
we
that.
didn't
That
make that
came
up?
from another
Another
town.
town.
So the language that's been used in Massachusetts before.
So Sarah, you're going to pursue this. I'm assuming you're going to start with DHCD themselves? Is
Yeah.
that a logical place to begin?
I'm
since you're
sure they
contacting
probably
them?
actually. have
Yeah, I mean, I often start with Google and see what organizations come up, but yeah, it sounds like DHCD is going to be like a major resource for
And
this.
who's going to manage the sold units for the affordable side?
Well, that's another question.
Yeah.
Is it like a CHAPA? Is it,
Because one of the regulations, Bob found this, was that after the closings occur, even if we're built individual units that are now wholly owned by the eligible buyers, there's a reference to the developer having to maintain, so I guess records.
Escrow account.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, an
I
escrow
thought I
account.
saw
Or
something about
how
that.
to determine what is affordable, but so we're skirting around all of these regulations and rules that, based upon the information that we have, can't do it. Which is why nobody's done it before. There's a reason why nobody gets to 10 houses or 10 lots in a subdivision, because one of them has to be affordable. And to put some context to that, the houses today, when you build in Southampton, if you ride around, they're mostly in the $700,000 to $1 million now for a house. The affordable amount of money that one of them has to be, if you put 10 lots in, is somewhere around 158,000.
Right.
And so maybe you would increase it by a little bit because you don't have condo fees and you don't have some of the other things. So let's say it's 200,000. One of the things that I think people really lack is there's not enough expertise in how much money does a builder make when he builds a house. There is builders literature around that talks about what the normal price range that a person would yield after you built the house, and it's somewhere between 8 and 10% of the property. So if you sold a house for $750,000, you're talking about $75,000 if he makes 10%, and you're talking about less than that. But if you talk about $75,000 and he does it for nothing, minus $750,000, that's $675,000. Well, he can only qualify for a $200,000 house. That means you're $475,000 short. If you built all 10 of them, you would have to build all 10 without nothing in order for him to do the project. And I don't see anybody stepping forward and doing all of that risk taking and all of that work to be able to do it. Our condos, which we were putting in 1,500 square feet of condos. It was a Craftsman style unit with 3-car garage. They were upscale. When you start to learn about what is in here, there's no upscale condos. There's only bottom of the barrel condos that you can get as close to what the affordables can pay, so that it actually can physically work, and it kills the creativity and the housing creativity and the nature of a community. And it's to me, it's very disturbing because I'm in the real estate business and I have a company that is very consumer focused. We try to do a really good job, which is why we're voted best in the Valley every year. People who touch us feel that they got what they bargained for. And the problem you run into is you have this set of rules that is presenting units to be supplied to the marketplace. The market is, there's a real big, we're getting 50 people at houses still. We're getting houses that sell for $75,000 still over the asking price. First-time home buyers can't get in unless their parents are mortgaging their house and giving them the down payment and or giving them the pay cash and then refinance it after. I mean, we're really creative and try to help it happen. Our people do better than most people, but a problem you run into is that people need housing, and there's not going to be an out for us, because sooner or later you're going to have people who will be homeless, which there are several areas like California, all kinds of homeless people on the streets and all of that. There needs to be a much simpler process to enter into, because there's nothing you can do that would be better for the housing industry is to have supply and demand in balance. Nothing beats that. So having enough supply
Right.
to meet the demand stops the escalation of prices, because the problem is that, oh, okay, I paid 75,000 more. Now that's a comp. So all the sellers see that, and they want 75,000, but they don't really want 75,000 more. They want 75,000 more than the last one went, who already paid 75,000 over the asking price. And you have an escalation
Yep.
of prices that continue to rise. And
Yeah, it's definitely a supply problem. It's a huge,
it's
it's a nationwide problem.
It's a nationwide problem. This is kind of, it came right out of it. And then, of course, you have rising rates that pile on in terms of being able to get people housing. And the only answer that I keep coming, because because unfortunately I've been in the business since 1979, which gives me a wide swath of experience on this. So East Hampton has the Plains houses, the HUD houses. There's 500 houses out there. Those originally sold for 18 and 19.2. That's what they sold for. They now sell for 250 to 350. And you could probably do new construction at the same numbers and have a brand new house if they had a place to go, if the zoning allowed for houses. Those lots are 80 feet of frontage and 150 feet deep. That's 12,000 square feet. That's the major cost in a house. I'm sorry, I'm generally speaking, because I'm trying to get the information out to people. The major cost in a house is the frontage, is the road. And that makes up somewhere around 25 to 35% of the actual cost, is putting that in. So when you have a town like West Hampton has 250, I'm picking on them, but that's their frontage requirement. The road has to be built like Route 66 in the zoning requirements. You know how many roads have been created in West Hampton since I've been in business, which is something like 46 years?
Zero.
Zero.
Yeah.
Not one new road. And then when you have 175 feet of frontage, like on Gun Road Extension in Southampton, you have these lots that go way deep and you got 175 feet of frontage. If the road already existed, if the lots were 100 feet of frontage or 80 feet of frontage, instead of a McMansion, you would have a house that would be forced to be on a much more affordable basis, but there's none of them around.
Right. I mean, that's one of the things we've been working with planning board on, is relooking at zoning and opportunities to compress just what you're saying too. The problem is, and we could go on, which is really not going to address what we're dealing with here, but you know, one of the issues we struggle with in this town, that a town like Northampton doesn't, except their rural parts, is infrastructure, lack of sewer, et cetera. So when you throw septic costs and septic demands, you know, some places don't perk, some places don't perk as well. You want to compress into smaller area, but now you've got a bunch of septics next to one another. And I speak like I know what I'm talking about, but I've learned from people who know more than me. So, and you know this, Bob. There are multiple challenges we deal with in Southampton.
The septic is a problem, but not nearly as a problem as people think it is, because when they had perk test regulations way back when, there were many properties that did not perk. Now I hardly ever run into a property that does not perk. So they all perk, essentially, with the new regulations and new rules. And
But would they perk if they were, instead of 140 feet of frontage, 80 and 80? So you got two septics competing in the same spot.
There are some area requirements, and that's one of the factors of this particular development, that it sits above or close to the aquifer.
No, it's a pretty,
The feed to the
right on
aquifer, so we're
aquifer,
limited to
yeah.
a certain amount of effluent on a daily basis, and we've accommodated that in our plans. But
we shrunk the density of the property.
Maybe we could figure out how we can do a joint call with like DCHD, with Todd and Sierra, or one or two of us,
Sure.
and that way
Can I ask a
Yes.
question? That's going to take us a
Absolutely.
little off the topic, but on topic. I'm not opposed to supporting this project, but we do have a certain amount in the CPA funds, and we do have a project on College Highway. Do we have enough funds to? I just wouldn't feel comfortable committing any of those funds at this point until that project.
We can't, I can't see
been-
how we can commit any funds without
Yeah.
answering all of these questions and understanding the
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah, we also don't know
Yes.
how much funds they're asking for,
Right.
or would be asking for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
I'm just saying, like, we do have that. It wasn't addressed at the last meeting about the project on College Highway.
Right.
And
Right.
We don't want to forget that.
yeah, and so I just want to put that out there, that we do have a project that we have committed ourselves to. We don't know how much that's gonna cost, and you just brought up how
I
much
understand.
building is gonna be, so, yeah.
Well, so the CPA money has been around for 15 years or better.
Yeah.
You've accumulated about 500,000 plus of money during that period of time.
I'm not sure.
And this is the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
venture into a property that can be affordable, which really doesn't, I mean, it.
This is our second, because we bought the property up here for affordable. So that was our first
Which
one.
one?
On 354 College Highway.
Yes, we do
Yeah.
still have some funds left. It really just depends on what scale you're thinking of, how much you need. And so I think we'll get to that question. I think
Yeah.
there's also state funding resources beyond the CPC that, like, one-stop grant and other things like that.
Does any of the members object to our guest asking a question?
No.
Oh, hello, Dan LaValle. Reviewing the planning board's zoning bylaws, that they're up for
Dan is on the
approval.
planning board, by the way,
I was speaking as an
Yes.
individual.
but as an individual, yes, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're more knowledgeable than most.
There
Sorry.
is a part that is about, that covers accessory apartments, which is a new concept for Southampton, which allows, before apartments had to be attached to the residence. Now you can have on the property an accessory apartment that is not attached to the main building. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, because that may help some in your equation.
Hmm.
There would be what, so you would have to do a septic system with that individual, or that, so you're in a kind of an accessory apartment. You have a house that has 3 bedrooms, a septic system that's designed for 3 bedrooms, so you would design a septic system for the accessory apartment as well?
Yeah, whatever.
You have to, I guess.
You can do either way. Design it to support it from the beginning, like as one unit for both houses, and then one septic, or have them 2 septic. I mean, that's
Right.
really builders or owners' choice.
Yeah. Well, I think that East Hampton has a similar bylaw where they allow tiny houses
Yep.
to be added to the existing properties, which help create a unit for people to live in. So they helped with the supply being increased by, and that's a major issue that helps, helps a little bit, every little bit helps.
So Dan, just for my own understanding, how does that impact their situation that 40 units and 10% have to be affordable? How does that address that? Because I'm not clear.
Definitely, speaking as a member of the public, I am suggesting that perhaps a way to make it a workable project is those the houses that are affordable are together enough for, you have the equivalent value of one of the other houses. So you end up building one smaller unit that is, I forgot how many square feet it has to be.
But Dan, sorry to interrupt you, it has to be indistinguishable. So we're talking about accessory apartments. The bylaw is very specific about how big it can be compared, to the house, and it can only be like a certain percentage.
You are correct.
However, we go back, and it's a different town, right, Northampton,
Yeah.
and are those units across the road on Burt's Bay? I don't know if they have the word indistinguishable, but even the state minimum, substantially similar.
They're not substantially similar.
Maybe
They
they're not
do have
considered
3
part of the
bedrooms,
same development.
But
but they
nonetheless, that's a state law,
Yeah.
right? So unless Northampton didn't record those as their inventory, and I doubt very much that they did not record those as part of their affordable inventory, because
Right.
that would be the whole objective. So to record them as part of their affordable inventory, by state minimum, they would have had to be substantially similar. So who's making that definition?
By state minimum, not our town bylaw minimum.
I understand that, but
I will look into that.
my point is, right, I'm very curious to see.
Who's making that?
Yeah.
Right, how-
I have another thought I want to add.
It's probably
I will find out
state
that.
issue.
So in the bylaw, there's the option that if you don't make the apartments, you make a payment of a certain amount, which would be to the housing trust by this point, which will hopefully be established by then. I don't remember off the top of my head what that payment is. It's probably less than the cost of building the house.
It's $228,000 per house.
So it's more than the
per house.
cost of building the house to make that
No,
payment.
it's
Not
a
more,
little
but
less,
it's still substantial.
because you have to factor in the value of the lot.
Okay.
So that plus the build, we're figuring minimum $350 to $400 to build these affordables, minimum.
Okay, so I don't want to discourage building of houses, but let's say we do all the research, we find out other funding sources, we discover that it's more practical to do that for one or two of the units and build 2 units. Just want to say that's also an option.
Yeah, we've looked at that, and,
A duplex, you mean?
well, building,
Not the 4 units,
Chair is
but
proposing is that we consider buying out a couple of units and building a couple of units. And see how that works out in terms of numbers, and we've looked at that. But from a developer's perspective, and I want to just interject, you know what the regulations say that a developer is allowed to earn maximum on an affordable housing project?
20%.
20%. That's a pipe dream, as Bob has pointed out.
You would love to make
We're
20%.
looking at this, say we.
I would take even.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If you told me we could build the 4 units even and not get paid,
Yeah.
I would be all in.
Well, you know, these
But
laws were
I-
made when the prices weren't so absolutely insane.
Well, yeah.
And
Well,
rates,
the cost of materials went up and the cost
it's
of
kind of a
mortgage went up.
perfect
and-
storm of bad news, right?
Yeah.
But the income levels haven't kept pace with the,
Right.
you know,
No.
that's the sad part. So.
Basically, everything's terrible. Okay, so.
No, no.
Well, I say things are doable, but not in the format that they're in.
Yeah.
But just so I don't know if everybody's aware of it, but we got informed yesterday that we had gone through 2 processes. One was the special permit process, and the other was the planning board, where we got the initial approval, or the preliminary approval, as they would call it. And we found out that it did not pass,
The zoning board did not pass. It had to be unanimous.
according to.
It was what I
That's
heard as
not-
well.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
except for everything legally, every attorney that I got says it's not right. But I'm not going to court, because I don't go to court with people where I work. But bottom line is that we now don't have a special permit
Right.
to do it. What we were facing before this, and we wanted to come in today, because there's nothing, every zoning bylaw for housing construction or development has inclusionary zoning in it, with the exception of 1. So whether it be in any district, you have to do anything more than 10, you have to do 10% of them to be on the affordable. From a practical standpoint, just share something, our units cost $500 to build, so we've priced them out. And they are upscale condos. I have 4 or 5 people that want them. And unfortunately, I've got to get back to them and say it's not going off. And it went down because the bar says that you have to get 4 supermajority. You have to get 4 out of 5, or in the case that we were in, you had to get 4 out of 4.
Right.
And
Which I didn't know that night either. I was like,
Well, we
Done
don't think
deal.
that's correct. You see, it's an interpretation of the statute, that's what Bob was
saying,
getting.
yeah.
And can you,
Right.
so if that was the case and you didn't get approved, can you try again? Or is that just the end of things?
We have to,
You have to
we have
represent.
to challenge the ruling and go to court.
And we have 2, we can appeal it and go to court, or we can come in with a brand new plan. The irony is, if we tweak the plan,
But you can't do it.
You can't,
Yeah.
There's no options available for you other than the cluster zone,
Right.
which creates a problem with the number of units with the value of the land. So the problem is you cannot get, so we're doing 40 units there. We were originally planning on 60. The reason why we backed off of 60 is that the zone 3, the effluent out of the septic system was more than 10,000. When you went to more than 10,000, you had to go to a communal system. The communal system has to have monitoring wells in it. The cost is about $1.5 million for that. So that $1.5 million plus the cost of the property pushed it way beyond what is financially doable. So we backed out. We told Jim, we're out. We can't afford to build. It doesn't do it. He got back to us. He said, I will reduce my price to blah, 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 which allowed us to drop the number of units below the 10,000
To the 40, so you're like
well,
8,800 or something?
40, 8,800.
8,000, yeah.
So we were under the requirements for the sensitive soil conditions that we're on. And so that was, and then the units that we wanted to build. So even if you build like, even on the low end of stuff, it still costs you $400,000 to build.
That's
And
why I heard that
if-
you can't build a house for under 400,000 these
You-
days, right? I mean,
cannot.
that's the
Crazy.
base.
Yeah, and the problem is 400,000, they're paying 400 or 500 and they're not getting anything. We have to build a unit that is attractive, that the seller would want to buy. I believe we would sell out that project and we would be there no more than 10 years. I mean, 10 years, 2 years is how long I would think it would take. We would get the buyers that would be able to do it. But with the cost of this unit being 500, and with the affordable number that they can pay at 160, you're 340 short. So here's the first thought that we recently gave to this thing, is 340 times 4 is 1.3 million. That was our loss to start out with. And while I would love to give I wish I was rich enough to give everybody a house, we're not in that boat, and nobody's gonna be in that boat. And it can't, we had to redo everything, or we had to come to see you about how can we do the 4 affordable units and move them off-site, and this takes some creativity. But we could take 4 units. There was 5.5 acres that was going to the town for the safety complex if they wanted it. And we didn't know what they wanted, and nobody's heard if they wanted it. We know that they ended up, the council on aging moved out of that 1.25 acres. So
Because we needed between, like the civil engineer came back and said 4 acres is what we should
That's what
strive
you
for.
need.
Yeah,
Well,
so
there
we
was-
just didn't give us enough room, so
Right.
that's all.
so bottom line is, but the point is, it gives us 1.25 acres. If we take 4 units, we could build the 4 units at what they could afford on that property and have the condos there, and you would produce at least 4 units, but the units are gonna look like, anybody familiar with town crier condos in East Hampton? They're 800 square feet. You have a kitchen, a dining room, a half bath, upstairs 2 bedrooms and a bath. That's perfectly fine for people to live in, and it's an affordable unit. Those units cost 200, almost enough that they make enough money to pay for those units. We then are able to build a 40-unit project that we think is in a perfect spot. People that I've talked to that were interested love the bike path, love the fact that you're across the street from a bank and from some place to eat and all of that. And the reason why they shut it down was too much traffic on Route 10, your main business district.
That was the
Every
perception.
business district that I've been in, the more cars that go by, the more the property's worth. Because that's why they go there, because that's where the people are.
And that was the
You're a business, you want
neighborhood
to-
saying that, right, at the meeting.
But they won. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
They convinced one of the
somebody,
people
yeah.
that there's too much traffic, which, that's always that's always the argument anytime that somebody tries to do something more than what's there. And I get it that they live there, and that's one of the things. People move to towns that they love, and they don't like to see change.
So
It's an issue.
So I was just going to say, so if I could summarize what I think I'm hearing. First of all, Sarah, I appreciate you doing a lot of research with DHCD, and just one person's opinion, I think the idea of two representatives getting together, talking to DHCD, so that you close that communication loop sooner. If you're willing to do that, Sarah, and I think there's a lot of, could speed the process up.
Sure.
That's one thing.
Yeah,
The
I think
second-
that's what my suggestion was, because I think we get both on this,
Yeah,
parties
I
on the
think it's an
phone,
excellent
then
suggestion.
I don't know what we can and can't, can we say, yes, build a town crier versus build a similar, I don't.
I think those are questions that can be asked. I think you have an excellent suggestion to have them together, and I do think that's part of the questions is, we have the inclusionary bylaw, and the purpose of that is to increase the affordable housing stock in town, right? So we want to try to get things done, and we have a model from a neighboring town, the Birds Pit Road, right, of where, despite the language, even the state minimum of substantially similar, it's across the road and it's not substantial. So what kind of leeway is there, and what does DHCD think about that?
In your bylaw, it says that the planning board may agree to move off-site to another location, the affordable units. They have the ability already, it exists in their regulation. So that piece, that the extra acre and a quarter, that was more than the 4 acres that the safety complex was going on, if we could convince Jim, let us have that, let us put the 4 units, that's not part of the condo complex we got. It's on their own condo, so it'd be a 4-unit condo complex.
Yeah.
That qualifies and gets you 4 units that you don't have. Right now, we don't have a way to make this work, but this is the type of creativity that is going to take to be able to move.
Right.
4 units is more units than you've had since you've had that CPA money.
As far as owner occupied, we have
Yes.
0
Yeah.
units. Right?
That's what I was thinking Northampton might have done, is maybe they were saying it wasn't part of the same development, that they just built them separately.
But they had to, I don't know what the inclusionary bylaw is either.
Right, maybe their inclusionary bylaw has a similar
Right.
clause.
Resident.
Mr. LaValle,
Resident
representing
Dan.
the public.
Representing, one thing I didn't understand is, you brought up the point about the ZBA basically voting you down because of one vote, right? What is the benefit, or how can the housing authority help you with that? Or is there any reason to bring that up to them?
Well, what we don't understand is the state 2 years ago changed the zoning bylaw and said that supermajorities could not stop affordable housing. So you only needed a majority of the people of the board. So you had a 5-member board, you only had 4 show up. You need 3 to be the majority. So that then would have pushed it through. I don't understand why that doesn't apply, and my attorneys don't understand it either. We're at a loss to explain how come they could slide by that, because the state purposely did that in, because the bar of 4 supermajority people is too high of a bar to be able to move forward with housing.
Doesn't that sound like, speaking as a public, doesn't that sound like something you should bring to the select board to address?
It came from very high ups around here. We met with the zoning board chair, and she's was very apologetic and very embarrassed about the whole thing. But the thing is that if this was strictly the only issue, that would be fine. The other issue that comes into this is it's economically not realistic.
I know.
That kind of bailed us out. So we dropped it. But I really don't understand how it's possible that it wasn't, that it was just a majority? How come it was only, it should have been a majority that decided that?
Speaking as me, I see you're trying to run a race, you have these hurdles to jump over.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I see you have 2 hurdles in front of you right now, and I was
Yes.
just wondering if there's a way to help you with one of the hurdles. I know there's 2 of them. One of them you could probably address here, which is how to go about building those affordable houses. That seems to be what this board would bring. And then the second hurdle is, well, we can't rewind time, so how do we go about getting over that other hurdle?
So we have to challenge the decision,
Right.
but we also need to know that the
It's chicken or the egg.
somebody's
They're not going to challenge
somebody's
the
okay
decision
with the
for-
fact that we would move off-site the
Yeah.
units and have a bigger picture in mind, because there are a number of things in the zoning that strictly speak to what you're doing for your affordable units. But in addition to that, there was a paragraph also that said that you can request the planning board to okay the movement of that. And this also, in between, I mean, I gave you 2 things that are a problem. Well,
I'm sure you're.
Jim, well, yeah. Well, Jim's gonna have to agree to give us that extra piece.
Right,
And
right.
that is not sure that that's gonna happen.
And that's just the part, that extra like acre and a half or
Yeah,
whatever?
acre and a quarter.
Acre and a quarter,
Correct.
okay.
But it's a perfect spot to do one, in a perfect, and it gives 4 people a home.
So is
Right.
Town
It
Crier,
builds the stock.
is that a rental Town Crier, or is that?
No, they're
They're
condos.
condos as well?
They were rentals. They turned
And they
it into
converted.
apartments, and I
Yeah.
remember, unfortunately, way back when, we started at 14 to 15 grand for each one of those. Now they're
Oh, the good old
225.
days.
The plan presented to planning board, was that including this extra parcel or
No.
not?
No.
Okay, so that would be considered a change to the plan,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As
Was
with the
there-
zoning board, but you would still have to go back to the zoning board regardless?
Well, if the
Yeah.
zoning board was inaccurate,
Right, right.
and that a majority would have carried it, then it is that the refusal that we got in writing just yesterday is inaccurate. So therefore,
that's
you
the
would have
case.
got the approval by the zoning board for condos. That was for the condos to go on that land. And then the next one was the planning board for the preliminary
Right.
approval, and that passed.
Yeah, I always have both of those. Yeah.
You were, yeah.
So I'm mindful of the time and also the scope of what we can do here.
Yeah.
So I'd like to bring it back to
Yeah.
where we are in this process and next steps. I've heard some next steps and some agreement, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with that. And if there's any additional information or questions or queries, this is,
Well, I think if we can work on getting the answers to these questions, that's a huge step forward that your committee could help us with.
From our group, yeah.
Yeah, and then, and we still have to wrestle with what we're gonna, we have 20 days to make a decision about how we proceed with the original zoning. And the irony is, that what you said, Joy, is that if we go in with a new plan, we could go in with a plan that has cluster development in the 40 units, which is exempt from the inclusionary zoning. And we could still look at
The
doing
only
the
one.
affordable on the other parcel. So the town would get potentially, and we haven't committed to this, of course, but we're researching this idea, they'd get the affordable housing and we'd still be able to build at a reasonable margin on the
How
other
are
side.
they gonna get the affordable?
Well, depending on what happens with the land. The land, that's the key. If
Right.
the
Yeah.
land is, and I can't speak for Little Breeze.
right. A lot of
Depends
things
on
have
how
to-
we.
Oh, you're talking about if we got the quarter acre.
Yes, yes,
acre
we
and
get
a
the
quarter
additional
development.
land.
Yeah, but then you still have to pay to build them. But you're saying if you make more market rate units, it'll be easier to afford.
Yeah,
to
but
build.
also, if we do that, if we do it as a cluster, then we may only get 30 units. It doesn't require zoning
A lot
approval.
less units.
Okay.
And and therefore, and if we had the acre and a quarter, we could still look at seeing about the possibility of doing affordable.
But we
the
don't
irony
have
is,
to do
we don't have to. But say we get this land, right, and we find it's not possible to be affordable, well, that might be something that the town would, you know, at some point, the town may be able to get some land at far less than what it costs per lot for this one affordable place up the street. So there are a number of different possibilities. And as we learn more,
And just so you get a bigger picture of cluster, what that means is you get 80% of the size of the lot in RV, which means that you shrunk the frontage and you've gone down from 30,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet. What you're going to get for housing that we see the success of that piece working out is the houses are going to be somewhere between 1,200 and 1,500 square feet. Kind of like what happened in the HUD houses, but if you want to bring it locally, Mountain View Circle, Karen Circle, Karen Lane, those are the type of houses you're going to get. Those houses, we believe, can be produced for 400,000 to 500,000. Now, I'm with you that says 400,000 to 500,000. It doesn't sound like any bargain to me. However, it is a bargain in today's world. You know, in today's world, there's
Or at least in this town. In
it's
this town.
affordable
And
with a
this
small
town.
A instead of a large A, that's the thing, you see.
Exactly.
And
And there's a lot of people that are looking for places that were being there, but we had one for 439, we had 50 people there.
So if you did a cluster instead, what would it look like? It wouldn't be condos? It would
No.
be smaller homes?
They would be homes
Okay.
set on a freestanding lot that they would own,
Right.
and the
Like
houses, because of the size of the lot, are shrunk down, and you have to have open space between each cluster, and you can't have more than 10 houses on a road. So you got 10 houses on one road, then you'd have 175 feet of open space between them, and then you would, I don't think you could get more than 20 to 25. I don't think there is a possibility, but we're gonna have it drawn out. And then you would have another 10 homes in there, so you would have 20 homes. The value of the land goes down the line because you can't pay a ton of money, you can pay a good price. But if that's the only option you got, it's more money than they would get in anything else. So bottom line is that you would have houses that would come on the market, brand new, that would be in the $400,000 to $500,000 range, and there would be 1,200 to 50, where we think about capes, we think about Dutches, we think about ranches, we think about, you know, small contemporaries or small garrisons, you know.
Because that would be probably more attractive to, if it, you know, the retirement community that's trying to downsize, or the teachers in town, or the police
Finish your home,
officers.
Right,
and
or a young
Yeah,
couple,
yeah,
two-income
that
households
just-
that
Right.
can't afford $600, $700, $800, $1 million.
This committee is committed to building, you know, more capital A and
Lowercase.
lowercase a.
Right.
I just don't know the CPA funds that are available for lowercase a. That's
Right.
No, they
That's-
probably.
No, we wouldn't be looking
Yeah,
for
you
that.
wouldn't need
We're
it
gonna
then,
try to
right?
make it stand on its own. That's what we're gonna have it drawn up to see how it comes out and see how many units, and then we can approach the owners and say, hey, this is the only thing we can do. We can't do
I'm sorry
anything
about
else.
that.
Yeah,
Well,
I know. Everybody wants whatever the market will bear and more. You know, it's
Right,
just what
right.
it is. However, when you have things that's all you can do,
yeah.
that's all it's worth, and it's really about a matter of education. You know, sooner or later, they face the reality that, well, I tried, and then nobody bid, so I gotta go somewhere else with my price, and the price is the only thing you really can control.
Yeah, I thought you guys were on the next zoning meeting agenda. I see that you're not, so I didn't
No.
realize that was, okay.
No, we got shut, we didn't know until yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, we went to the planning board in all honesty, thinking that that was approved, and I think everybody else thought that it was approved. And the information that came through from the planning board was that, or not from the planning board, but from the zoning board, is that it was approved.
Right, right, yeah.
And it wasn't.
I walked out thinking it was approved.
See, yeah, so
It's-
we
especially-
were
3-1.
too. Yeah. Anyways, I appreciate you listening to
Yeah.
this, because it really takes people that get educated about the market and the realities of the marketplace, because you can go and concoct this housing plan and think it works without people that are actually out in the field, and you need to communicate with them and say, what works? How can we create housing that's a lot cheaper? And now the state has $180 million in affordable housing. That's the first time it's ever been in the budget, by the way. But that $180 million,
Pretty fast.
it's going to go pretty fast because everybody's after it. But the problem you run into is that we have a hard time taking care of our roads and educating our kids. And now we're going to take on the housing problem, when the housing problem can be resolved by zoning and not having to take the money where it's really needed. And we need to provide, there's certain things that the government has to do, and housing shouldn't be one of them.
So you would ask it to be zoned as a cluster development then? Would be your step
Well, not,
alternative?
it's allowed under that zoning.
Right,
So,
okay.
in fact, all of them
And you
has a
wouldn't
cluster.
need the capital A affordable because of
Right,
what
yeah.
you're,
It's exempted, and the irony is, it's a planning board determination, so we don't go back to zoning at all. It just seems like a really curious exemption. You know, it doesn't really serve the purpose of the inclusionary zoning bylaw, and yet it's in there. I don't know the reasoning for it, but it may be a way
Was
to
that, sorry,
accomplish
was that part
this.
of the revisions?
Clustered developments, I can't tell you if it's part of the revisions or not.
Because they're up on the town meeting, the revisions, so I wonder.
Speaking as,
I
That's
don't
a good
remember.
question. I don't know if.
I don't remember
I
if
doubt
it was.
that's even been noticed. You know, if you want to see what the cluster would look like, if you go to Nicholas Drive, where Chet Kellogg's created a cul-de-sac and built 9 houses, if you visualize that as having shorter frontage, and the frontage isn't super, but it's more than we need.
good
Just shrink it
size
down.
homes.
It's like The Incredible Shrinking Man, that movie, terrible movie.
They're not 12 to 1,500 square feet.
No, they're not, but it would be
Oh,
similar in appearance. Each street would be similar.
No,
Yeah.
but the cost of the land made it, so the demand is high on all levels. And when you pay $150,000 for a lot, that cannot be more than 25% of your cost of it. So 3 times that is 4, so you're talking 600. I don't even know if you can build for 600 anymore, not the houses that are out there now.
So is it purposeful for us, considering the zoning board turned it down, to pursue this affordable side of it and these questions at this time until we know for sure what you want, or you want this in your kind of a good understanding of these answers?
My opinion is it's incumbent on the housing board to understand the answers to these
Oh,
questions,
yeah,
because there's an inclusionary zoning, and I don't mean to,
For all the other projects.
for all of us that are trying to build housing.
Right,
and
you're
are
gonna
really
need
Might as
to
well
know
find
these
out.
It
questions.
doesn't hurt us to learn,
Yes.
no.
We're gonna need to know eventually.
be helpful
Yeah.
to the future.
I just don't want to
endeavors.
hold you guys up for if it takes longer, but it doesn't sound like that's gotta be the issue.
Well, I
Keep us
think we have-
posted on this zoning situation. I'm very curious how that ends up.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I think we have an opportunity with Sierra's willingness to work with you, Todd. Let's in my opinion, take advantage of that and pursue these answers.
Yeah. So I'm going to start by finding out who to talk to and when they have time to actually talk, and then I will get you involved.
Okay, and I'm going to look at my notes too, because I may have the contact person that would save some time.
Great.
So
Awesome.
then, and I don't know if I have an email from you, but I don't know what the best way is to get in contact with you.
Yeah, email's good. I'm a good email checker,
Okay,
generally.
great.
She's not going to announce her cell phone on TV because it's being recorded, so
Oh, yes, I'm new at this. So I'm not
perhaps.
going to give you mine then either.
Yeah, no, they not that.
land.
Yeah.
They already know our home addresses.
So what I'm encouraged by here is what you said, Bob. It does take communication, and this is good communication. And I think it also takes flexibility on all parties involved to figure out where we can bend, what's the real intent here, and how, it's a cliche, right? But how do we get to yes versus
Yeah.
how do we, how can we stop this? if we're focused more on getting to yes and flexible and talking, then there's a chance, right?
Yeah.
And that involves everybody working together. So I'm encouraged by this start.
No, you know, all the builders, they'd like to build affordable housing, they can't. Like, the building code this year raised the cost, according to Ronnie Lauren, your building inspector, $30,000 have been raised through the building codes. And it's a problem. I just went into the building on Cottage Street that they're building for these affordable units, and the building it's got to be insulated to the point of R21 from the outside, which is not 2x6 walls. It is 2x6 walls plus.
Right. We could be here all night if we're going to start talking about what's going to take place July 1st, right, with the state.
Right.
Oh my God. So we got to envelope the house. So it's,
Yeah.
Wow.
It's gonna be
Somebody's
crazy.
going to say something, say, hey, you know, I mean, it's going to be how much is it going to take for time to make up $30,000 in the $55 a year you lose through your walls? Because that's not really where you lose your insulation, your heat. But anyways, I don't want to get too deep into it because, but anyways, you can make a dent in it by being open-minded and trying to figure out how you can get housing up at numbers that are much more doable for most to reach the next. Are you going to get people? You're going to get it for people that are making $30,000 a year? I probably can't get there. But if somebody's making 50 or 60 or 70, you know, they should be able to afford a house. Something over their head.
well, I hope you are also encouraged that this board here wants to try to be creative and flex and figure this out.
Well, you got a good mix. You got
Sure.
yeah. Good. You know, if everybody's honest in their, you know, intent, you know, their intent, like me and Todd, we work in the community. I'm interested in helping people. I know everybody thinks I'm out there for every dime I can make. Not true. You know, I get paid, and I get paid in a marketplace that allows it. But everybody gets what they bargain if they deal with me and my company. That's important.
And as a public speaker person, I'd say you're the first builders to attempt affordable housing,
Yeah.
like you mentioned before.
Yeah.
So that says a lot.
Because we have,
We really-
met with the builders before, and they've always said they just can't, afford to build one.
Right.
They-
Yeah.
Especially now, it's really hard. So.
And we don't have enough to support all of them to build one house per development, one out of 10, so it's a tough.
Yeah, the choices keep going. They say, okay, I saw it even in a couple of projects I was doing. We can get 12 lots in here, but we have to do affordable one. We can do 9 and not do the affordable one. That was the choice. But you lost 3 units that would have supplied 3 houses. So the zoning itself acts as the deterrent for supply and demand, which is huge. So,
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks
So,
thank you for
thank
coming
you.
in.
Appreciate you investing your time in this, and this is to be continued, right?
Yes.
More work.
Yes.
That's-
we're open-minded. We're gonna
Good.
search and see if there's a way that we can get it done. If we can, well,
We
give it our
pledge
best
to do
shot.
the same.
And the public safety just are in the process of hiring the architect to do the study, so they're a ways off from, it sounds like, from
Yeah.
making
And then there's
locational
How do they raise
decisions.
20 million or whatever it's going to be to build?
Well,
That's
yeah,
a whole
yeah,
other-
yeah.
Small.
You might
Small
want,
potatoes.
somebody might want to give, so someone's contact with the Labries, I would contact them and let them know that part. Because they do not know it. So they are,
Right.
there is some frustration level saying, why are we giving this to them? What's the point? There seems to be no interest, and that's really not the case. It's the case
Yeah, but it
of,
just was-
takes a long time.
They had a select board meeting a couple weeks ago, so
Yeah.
that's the reason I'm aware of it, so.
Yeah, yeah. One little call, say, hey, we're looking into it and it could be a use for us.
Communication.
Who knows?
Good luck with your future endeavors, Spike.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm disappointed. I'm gonna work on your brother.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check into your background and figure out what we're
You're gonna dig up
what
some
we can
dirt?
hold over your
So you'll have
head.
to continue to search.
We all got it.
Don't start digging because you won't have to scratch very far in the surface to find something.
Remember, we're on tape.
Oh, that's right.
Take care. Good
Yeah.
night.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, that was a very stimulating discussion. Thank you, everyone. Next on the agenda,
RF.
update
Statement
on the
of
SOW. It's a prerequisite, and I have,
Ed said that he could not find anything. I
yeah,
brought it up
so,
last night.
Yeah.
and,
I heard you. I'm a witness.
I did something.
yeah,
No, I
yeah,
just
so,
bring it up.
and, I appreciate it, and he gave a good value number, so we gotta look elsewhere.
So Megan did send a couple RFPs, right? RFQs from Habitat a while ago.
She sent an RFP, but not an SOW.
I know,
Right,
but
but we
sometimes
need an
within.
SOW.
Dan said he was
So-
gonna find us some SOWs.
I thought
Oh, did I
usually
say- I did
sometimes
say that.
inside
Oh,
of
yeah,
a
I'll find
RFQ or some of the
He's
SOWs.
like, I'm gonna Google it
that
right
you
now.
need.
What does SOW mean? From work.
So in Dan's defense, I believe I also promised to reach out to Ken Comia, and I did not.
Okay.
So I will pledge to do that.
As a
But,
member-
Also, just add
I
that,
have no authority or responsibility yet.
Sierra, maybe add that as one of your, if you have them on the phone, to ask DHCD if they have
okay.
just general templates that they give
I'll
housing
add it to my
authorities
list.
for statement of work.
Yes.
Can't hurt.
They're gonna get
Even if we have
everything.
some RFP.
I'm sure we're not the
templates,
first town
we
to
still
call in
need
with like
system.
8,000 questions.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the statement of work is included in the RFP, so that's why I thought maybe there was
Nice.
something
yeah.
Nice.
worth looking at, so,
Is there?
I don't know. I just brought them up. Here's another one.
Perusal.
Okay.
Did everyone?
I mean, it's kind of buried in there. It's not listed as a statement of work, but it, site visit, affordability,
It's not like it's an attachment. that-
property background. No, it's kind of integrated.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we did a statement of work for the Council on Aging for the senior center, and it was part of the RFQ, so.
Are we just looking for a general template for what we're doing or for?
Yeah, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. But
We
at
could have
this-
reinvented the wheel about
Right,
4
I'm
times
just
by
gonna
now.
say, at this
Maybe we
point-
should reinvent the wheel, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Well,
If I
is
just
it-
had a definition of what a statement of, it's literally, just send me the council on aging one, whatever you have.
Right,
It's an
but
RFP
I
again,
think
it's an RFP.
some of the
So it's
reason
like
of the
we're gonna-
delay is, my own fault. So, it doesn't take a second to drop Ken Comey an email. I just didn't do it. Since you're talking to DHCD.
Do we need the statement of work or can we just do the RFP?
You need a statement of work, I'm nearly certain.
Yes,
That's
I
kind
think
of what
that was the
was-
first question you asked Ed, is what's the process for
Yes.
the RFP? And he said,
Yes.
first you need a statement of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I suggest that if Ken Comey doesn't have a nice, easy template, and DHCD doesn't, then you're right. We stop trying, we reinvent that wheel.
Okay.
Because it's not reinventing it, we don't have it.
There is no wheel.
So-
There is.
We are cave people.
It's a square wheel.
Yeah. Okay, so I will email Ken, I'll CC folks so he can reply all.
Sounds good.
All right, if we can move along, news from the town caucus. I just put this in there, I'm just curious. The town caucus took place, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Was there any,
I nominated Dan, but I'm not sure he,
I went to Lucy's office and signed the papers and to be put onto the ballot.
Sweet.
nice.
So
You did it.
Yep. But last night Ed Gibson said, "Hey, we have this." I figured he said he figured out how to get the state appointed position working. He says somehow he talked with John Delis and he knew it. I was like, oh, that's great. So I was like, that's one avenue we could pursue. I emailed him tonight. I'm like, I'm just stick to the ballot. that works.
We still want to know the answer for the next
Oh,
person
yes.
who comes along. So that's still very helpful if they found out. But yeah, let's vote you in if we can.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, if you're willing, because I thought, we had spoken at our last meeting, I forgot Joy wasn't here, but we talked about, shall we nominate Dan at the caucus, and you weren't here because you didn't make it, because you were, and.
Oh, that one I fell asleep. I'm
So
sorry.
we kind of agreed we would nominate you at the caucus, and then I did, and you were like, what? So,
Yeah, and then you
my
nominated
apologies.
me for
Yeah, and I know.
and I was like, what?
Well, just in case, you can always say no, so.
See, don't go. All right.
So I'm not elected yet. I have to get
You will be.
some votes.
Right.
I mean, you're running what's the word?
Unopposed?
Unopposed.
Nonetheless, he still has to get votes. So everybody vote.
Oh, I have a question. Speaking of things like that, I think this is somewhat related. So, I'm the housing representative on the CPC. The reason Janet nominated me for the CPC was because I was going to offer to be CPC chair because Virginia was retiring and everyone else is leaving. Nobody has even been anyway, there's no one else who wants to do it. And so, this ongoing question has been, can I be the chair of the CPC as the Housing Authority representative? And it appears that I can.
There's no reason, you're a voting member of the committee.
But I talked to Lucy, I talked to the Ethics Commission, I talked to everyone.
Right. Is it
Ethics Commission did not know the answer to that question, but what they did tell me was that it's considered, my position on both boards is considered one position, because if I left the Housing Authority, I would be off the
no longer be
CPC
in
automatically.
Right.
So she said, but the one last thing you should do is check with town council. So A, I was gonna ask you guys, how do I get in touch with town council? B,
Only through Ed.
okay, through Ed. If I find out that I can't be chair as the housing representative, which I don't think is the case, but if that is the case, and I need to
I think
write it
you're
myself.
fine.
Okay.
Because we have a select board member who is the chair of the school committee.
Okay. So it's a
You're-
thing. There's precedent.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you're fine.
Okay, because the reason I didn't accept the nomination to be a voted-in member of the CPC was because then someone else from housing was going to have to also join the CPC, and nobody has time for that. So I just wanted to see.
Although CPC meets
Rarely.
Once
Yeah.
Right.
when there's a
That's why I'm so
blue-
excited for this
That would have been a hard one to fill.
And I might argue that your value as a CPC member and chair to the Housing Authority might exceed your value as the Housing Authority rep to CPC, and someone else could be the rep to CPC.
Right.
In theory.
In theory.
Yeah.
But unless I have to, I don't want to have to do a write-in campaign to be voted on there unless I need to. So for this year, I still have 3 years left on my Housing Authority term, so I'd be on there for a while if I do get voted as chair.
So good luck with that.
CPC.
But it's a little bit different. John is he's not a representative of the select board on the school committee, whereas Sierra is the voting member from the housing on CPC. So it's
Yeah.
not quite a like for like, but I don't see
I don't
any
see
reason
the difference.
any member
Yeah.
could be the chair.
What day is I'm still gonna check with town council just to be 100% sure. I've checked with every possible
I would
source.
just check with Ed.
Check with
because
Ed.
Ed would be.
Actually,
able to
I think I
tell you.
asked Ed first, but I will check with Ed.
But
When is the election?
specifically ask Ed, check with towns. Do I need to check with town council?
Yes.
Yeah.
You do want to dot that I.
Yeah, I do.
Just ask him. I think he'll have the answer. Ultimately, every time we talk to town council, it costs town money.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yes.
That's right.
That's why I said only
why-
through Ed,
yeah.
yes.
Town council.
Okay.
So he made
so
it.
what day is the election? I just need to know how much time I have to handle
It's May
this.
16th.
May 16th?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a Tuesday.
Got it.
Yes, it's a
So
Tuesday.
what board is Virginia Ahart on?
She's an elected member of the community preservation.
Yes.
So, elected member?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
They
So
only have
that's what.
one
And she is the
elected
only
member?
chair
Two.
that has ever
Janet Brown is the
existed.
other
And
one.
so she didn't know the answer to that question either, even though she
Yeah.
knows everything.
Yeah. Good shoes.
Okay.
Okay, good
So
stuff.
I just was sent a statement of work outline, which I had found a long time ago
Okay.
but it's just an outline of a statement of work. So then from there we would work with that outline.
Okay.
So,
And
you know,
That
just
may
a
be
base
sufficient.
You
outline.
guys
Because
are
we're
leaving
looking for a
us. You mean
template.
we.
I'm not
Yeah.
leaving.
Oh, you're not? I thought you were leaving.
Just
Oh, thank goodness.
She's leaving next year.
Next year. Okay, we have one more year. We can.
No, I'll get talking to her.
We can utilize
Yeah.
you one more year.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
not-
And
goodness.
you're staying as
I'm happy, if you don't want me on, I'm
Secretary, right?
okay. If you
Oh,
want me to
come
step
on.
down.
I'm just,
You
no,
must
just one more
serve.
year. Just one more year. We're good.
We'll just do some recruiting in the meantime. You know?
Good luck.
Right. Okay, next agenda item if we're ready, which is again, me just thinking, as I create the agenda. So the planning board, and maybe our citizen, who also happens to be on the planning board, can provide an update. Although I got a bit of an update last night, or Monday night in the, what's today? Wednesday, Monday night in the NPIC meeting. But are you willing to share, not
So,
representing the planning board, but just as a citizen who happens to know?
Yes, so in the last draft minutes of the planning board, there was a summarization table in the appendix, which went through each section and said what the major changes were.
But we don't have a copy of the actual changes.
There's no red line document.
There is not. It's what I am aware of is that it is 132 pages,
Yep.
and that's the summary. And I have not seen. Actually, maybe Paul. I have an old version.
Yeah.
I don't have anything that's going to be on the town warrant, and that's the
Yeah,
issue.
It'd be so hard to compare because things are moved around.
Yeah.
You can't just automatically have like Word compare the two documents. Like, oh, that's different.
Yeah, so the summary's not very helpful because there's things in there that said like, this is a new provision. It doesn't tell you what the provision, it tells you what the provision is, but not what it says. Substantively. So the summary's not very helpful.
And,
And,
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I heard this over 100 pages, and it's all gonna be, rather than sections, it's all gonna be brought forward to town.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
I
supposed
asked,
to be 100
and
articles.
well, I don't know how we're gonna be able to have people vote on things that they don't see. Like, how are you,
This was a discussion
especially
last
new
night at
provisions.
NPIC.
Yeah.
So this is supposedly what's gonna be on the
This-
town warrant.
No.
So before
trying
we
to get it
before we go down a rabbit
Yeah.
hole of
Yeah.
figuring out planning board, which is not our scope here.
No, it's not.
I just want
What are we
to.
gonna do without you, Jim?
We are. I'll remind our viewing audience and ourselves, right, that we are partnering with the planning board. They're a key
Yes.
partner with us. Similar to the last guest here, our role, I want my limited time here, and I hope it continues, right, is to be collaborative and to work with other bodies, in this case the planning board, to improve both capital A and lowercase a affordable housing in Southampton. So that was my frame when I asked for a planning board update. We were talking about some zoning changes in that area. So rather than the all-encompassing planning board, is there,
With regards to us.
with regards to us, it's all about us right now. We're going to be
Yeah,
selfish here.
right, Yes.
Us being the housing authority. Is there anything in the revisions related to these things that we've
the
been
work that we
discussing?
had done in Kenconia,
Yeah.
and those things are included in this.
But what is that work, is
Can
the
you-
question.
can you-
What is the specific work?
We can go back and watch. You can go back and watch the video. When Kenconia walks through his changes, if you wanted to understand what those are. Like I can't. I would love to have a document. It's like
I know.
this line changed, that line changed.
What was the general
Yeah,
feeling?
can you-
that's why I brought up the document,
Trying
because
to get
it's
more
very
affordable
hard
housing
to,
there, so-
Okay.
there's so
This
much
is the-
material that,
But the thing is, this is the documents worked on for years. Even
Right.
before I was on the planning board.
Yeah, but so to get more affordable housing through generally like an overlay district with smaller lots and or allowing accessory dwellings? Probably more towards accessory dwellings because I'm seeing that happen in towns around us. They just did it in Deerfield, if you see in today's paper. So is it more like the accessory dwellings
I know
versus
I mentioned
we're going
accessory-
to allow smaller frontage in certain parts of town?
I know I mentioned accessory housing, because I specifically remembered that. I thought that was way, perhaps it might help.
So the summary is a little bit helpful, like there's stuff with multifamily dwellings. I swore I
Okay,
saw.
that's good.
That says that they made substantial changes to make multifamily housing development more feasible for a variety of dwelling unit sizes.
Hey.
The existing provisions impose significant burdens on housing for families. Among the changes made to this section were revisions to the open space requirements and elimination of the minimum frontage requirement. So that was for multifamily dwellings.
Okay. And
Accessory
that's
apartments.
across all zoning districts in town, I assume.
So it's a reduction of the, I'm just trying to capture.
Reduction of the frontage for multifamily dwellings.
Yeah.
So in regards to the use regulations, which covers like what each zoning can be used for, those have been changed. Instead of use regulations, the use is to be, it's a separate table. I don't have information based on this.
Sounds promising though.
Accessory apartments, this section has been revised to further the goals of the town's master plan. Among the changes are that accessory apartments could be detached from the single-family dwelling on the parcel. In regards to accessory structures, I mean, that's not accessory dwellings. But those were like the big things that I remember seeing.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, it's difficult to identify what changed without that one-to-one comparison. But you have the general list of changes there. Taking the time, if only the housing authority had the time to read the changes and compare to the old document, then perhaps they would find them favorable for affordable housing and move to support the bylaw changes for zoning. But that would be something we would
But
have.
it's all inclusive, so
Yes,
if we
the
support
whole thing.
ours, then we support everything.
Yeah, so like for common driveways, they expanded the requirements, so I'm guessing made it
Yeah.
easier to have a common driveway.
Common driveways, there were issues because for emergency vehicle access.
Yes,
So
okay.
we addressed that.
Okay. Inclusionary zoning, I remember the planning board didn't address that because they wanted to address it separately. So that's the one thing that specific to housing authority that has not been reviewed. Yeah, so those are the ones I can think.
Cool.
I mean, I'm excited about the accessory apartments.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the multifamily dwellings too.
Yeah,
Whatever they did, it sounds good.
Bag of candy or whatever it's called.
It doesn't say
What
what
is this,
the,
like Congress? Like we have to vote everything at once? That's so...
So, yeah,
Can I
we're
ask
going to
you-
avoid
Yes.
comment on, yeah.
yeah, do we know what the frontage wasn't gonna be? It just says reduction of frontage, but it doesn't list in there what.
Not in here, no, it's
Doesn't
just a
say how much
summary.
of a reduction.
No, this is just a summary.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
okay.
I'm trying to get that whole document.
Yeah, I know, they're trying to get it uploaded, right, to the website,
Yeah, I asked.
but.
Right, 'cause
Yeah.
I think it's something,
'Cause they
as a
can't-
housing authority, we should pledge to read, because I imagine at town meeting, right, they're gonna say, who supports this? And if the housing authority supports it, it's gonna be meaningful.
Let me see.
Because the citizens are not gonna read this before, it's gonna be interesting.
Probably gonna pass though.
Zoning bylaw.
Okay, so are we ready to move on?
Yes.
Yes, I'm getting it. So the next agenda item, before the next agenda, I'm going to add an agenda item. I apologize. It's very quick though. So I was reminded last night, or Monday night at the MPIC meeting, the Master Plan Implementation Committee meeting, wherever you are, it's, that this board will need to have a representative to replace me on MPIC. So in the spirit of what we discussed last time, we were talking about, succession planning and having a chair and deciding that we will wait till the new board constitutes itself. I guess I'm not going to propose that we select an MPIC representative here tonight, but I put it in your heads. That's another
Yep.
thing that the board needs to be aware of.
Do they still meet?
Yes.
They
had-
do.
They met Monday.
They've been,
Oh,
been
And
meeting
they're going to have another meeting. When's your next meeting? It's
May
before the-
12th,
So it's
which is
before
a
the
Friday.
election. Which is before the
Oh,
election.
wow. That
Yes,
explains
well-
a lot.
Yes. No, I'll be joining that, but I mean, I give the MPIC folks a lot of credit. It was a lot of hard work, and to Chris Fowles, great credit, I believe. She is making sure that it doesn't become like the last time we had a plan, which is you make a plan, you put a lot of work in it, and then you forget it.
Yep.
So she's committed to meeting, you know, she started quarterly. I think twice a year they will probably meet. And it's good. You check, are we on course? Where are we not on course? So it's
Okay.
a valuable,
Maybe we'll do that.
it's a valuable committee, in my opinion, especially with Chris Fowles chairing it. And that's just my opinion. But so I give, you know, let's keep that going. It keeps us to task. All right, next agenda item, are there any items that cannot wait until the next meeting? Folks that want to bring forth here.
Oh, town meeting was changed to May 9th.
Oh,
If you
really?
didn't know.
I did not
Didn't.
know. Thank you.
May 9, day of the week, just by chance? That must-
Tuesday.
that's- That's still a
Yes.
Tuesday, yeah.
7 p.m.
I believe so.
usually. Yeah.
All right, thank you for that.
So I
Right.
did send a couple of statements of work. I will send it to Ed and say, is this what you're kind of looking for? Or is there another definition of it? So that,
It may be, because all we're looking for is a template, right? And that's what you described as a
So
template.
do
Yeah.
we want me to start trying to turn that into our actual statement of work out of the template? Because I can do that. I can start.
yeah,
Or is
and
that
I
better
also,
for like?
I followed up with I found one from
Are you
the,
kidding? I was like looking them up on law
Thanks.
forms and they like don't have statement of work. I'm like,
Sorry.
nope, that's not
What were you
right.
saying?
no, I sent the one from the
Okay.
Council on Aging, but I mean, or from the
Okay, I'm gonna
feasibility
start
committee.
drafting something because sometimes
Okay.
you just need to get it started, and then I'll
Yeah.
send it to y'all.
Right, and
Or
I
maybe
will
at a
still
time.
email Ken, and if he provides something
Yeah.
that just makes
Okay.
your job easier, Sierra, great.
Okay, great,
I'm gonna email you the notes that I took during that meeting.
awesome.
During that. So, the questions.
Okay. Seeing that there are no additional items, the next agenda item is to schedule our next meeting.
We could do it the 15th, the day before the election.
Too soon.
Wait, are we doing Wednesdays?
I'm
Yes.
teasing Jim.
Yes.
Oh.
I didn't
Okay.
take that
Okay,
day,
oh.
but if you
Alright.
did, I would
So
meet
we're
my
doing
obligation,
the
Jim.
4th Wednesday, right? 4th Wednesday.
Are we meeting twice a month?
No.
No, once a month.
So that would be May
I'm sorry,
24th.
confused with all the other meetings.
Right, I mean, we can, if you think it's productive.
May 24th?
Yeah, May
I
24th.
will be in DC.
I will be
24th, so
gone.
even if-
You
Well,
guys, I'm gonna be gone May
too
20th.
late.
I'm not gonna be gone. May 24th is going to be a community meeting in regards to the fire.
The fire,
that
that's right, so
happened.
that's not gonna be a good
Yeah.
time to do it.
Regards to
Yeah.
the fire, it's-
Well, they're having
the
a,
house-
go ahead,
Maple
you.
Street?
The select board is
I forgot,
trying to.
I don't know, I forgot even the street, I know the
They're having a
area.
mediator come, but on Maple Street, there was the fire that occurred,
Maple
and
Street,
there's
yes,
been a.
there.
You
Oh,
know, they want,
Yes.
they
So
don't
all
want
the
to,
depart- they're having
moving
a
forward, what do we
community-
have to do differently so that
I
that
see,
doesn't
so a
happen
little
again.
after action with
So-
involving the community.
There
Yeah,
just so happens to be
Norris.
a
Yeah.
5th Wednesday in May, the 31st.
I'm already committed for the 31st
You
at,
may get your wish on the 15th.
It's a Monday.
yeah, 6 p.m. I'm
Okay.
committed.
Should we skip to June? Question, is there a reason we have to meet every month? Who decides how
Because
often we
do
meet?
have a statement of work. We do have a project that we are
Sure.
working on.
I'm just wondering, I just didn't know if there's like a
And we
rule.
do
for
have, we
committing
probably
to
do
things
have
we
to
want.
get answers for them.
Yes.
It's probably important.
We do have
Yes.
business, but to your point, Sarah, if the business demand changes, other committees meet less often.
Yes.
Yeah, if we don't have anything in August, we take August off, for example, or whatever.
So back to the next meeting.
And that's an evening one too, right? Joy for the 24th, that's gonna be.
That's,
an
yeah, it's
evening
probably
one.
gonna be like 6 to 7:30, Chris said, but that, none of that's finalized, but that's the plan, so I
That's when
wouldn't,
the mediator was available.
yeah,
or
at
whatever?
Norris, yeah.
Okay.
Can anyone meet at 5? Like, 6 p.m. was kind of because of Jim, right? You're the one who says 6. So should we try for a different time of day if we can't find a Wednesday that works?
I mean, I can do early here, I can do 4, but 5, I have to get to Springfield for 6.
Okay.
On the 24th, yeah, you're not gonna, you said.
No, not on the
Oh,
31st.
on
On the
the
24th, 24th, I'm out completely. It's my daughter's birthday.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So it's your
sorry.
dog's birthday?
No, my daughter. If it's
Oh.
my dog's birthday,
You said that really seriously.
No, dogs are part of the family.
Yeah, right.
No, it's my daughter's birthday, and
You know,
I'm
you
already
go
in
all
a trial
over.
all day that day,
Yeah, yeah,
so I
so
got
you're
only
burnt.
the evening, yeah, to spend with
Anyway.
her.
So you wanna do the 31st?
I can do the 31st
Earlier?
earlier at 4.
What time are you good at?
What day of the week?
It's a Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, I can do it.
This space is available at that hour?
I don't see any other. I don't think anyone
anybody's
else
booked ahead.
is.
Okay.
I just don't know if
Booked
this is
that
used
far.
during daylight, business hours.
No, it can be booked during the day
No.
too, yeah.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
okay. So you wanna do it at 4?
Yeah, we can do it.
On what day of the week are we, the 31st?
Wednesday, 4 p.m.
Do we all work? Do you work from home?
I go to the office sometimes. I was in the office today, but I generally
Same.
Go to
I
the
think we
office,
all
fun.
have kind of a
Yeah.
flexible work. Okay.
Yes, very much flexible.
Yeah. Okay.
As long as I book it in advance.
When I spend too much time at home and I think my cats are the only people I talk to, I decide it's time to go to work.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so have we, this concurrence, May 31st at 4 p.m. here.
Indeed.
Yes.
All right, so therefore, the next agenda item is to
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Second.
I try to beat Joy.
All in favor?
Aye.
And it is adjourned
Opposed?
at
Wait,
7:48, okay.
Are you still gonna post it to my town government, even though you're not going to be the?
I will be
Sure.
happy to contact Lucy. I think I might have access to this too. Let me go back.
My town government.
There's like that
Yeah.
interim weird.
And I will be happy to kick off the meeting as the clerk as we elect officers.
Great.
First thing on the agenda.
Sounds good.
if there's an issue, call me and
I
I'll.
will, I promise. It's a one-time thing.
You can always call me for any kind of consultation.
Yeah, I'm
not
on
leaving town.
with
Always
accessible.
call
so.
you? Really?
Call you
That
every
doesn't mean I'm
day.
gonna answer. All right, so this meeting has voted to adjourn.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.